In Venezuela, we go now in progress to Anne-Marie Hordern in Venezuela with U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright.
Extracted its leader, and you've spent about 2 days now, a lot of time with interim President Delcy Rodriguez. Is she receptive to what the U.S. government is doing on your trip here?
Oh, absolutely. We've had hours of discussions both in the palace and going around in the trip. I think she's quite enthusiastic about it. President Trump's groundbreaking diplomacy here is changing the history of Venezuela, changing the history of American foreign relations.
Did the elephant in the room come up in terms of Nicolas Maduro?
Yeah, he's been briefly discussed.
And did she bring him up, or did you bring him up? Because she's saying that he's still the president of the country.
Yes, look, Venezuela's got a constitution, they've got their rules, and they've got their own internal politics. And certainly I'm not here about internal politics. I'm here much more about the future and less about the past.
Do you think you can work with her in terms of looking at that future, if business could feel that this is a place where they can invest?
I think the last 5 weeks have shown absolutely yes. We've worked very careful with interim President Rodriguez. She's made enormous changes very rapidly, starting January 5th. We already see a better business climate for Americans. We see smiles on Venezuelans' faces. We see local businesses here now optimistic about their future, talking about a return flow of Venezuelans if things continue on this path. So, yeah, I think great optimism.
The president at one point said the U.S. was in charge of Venezuela. What does that mean on the ground practically?
I think it meant that 20-plus years of failed diplomacy had failed to change the trajectory of Venezuela. And now, with, again, a very groundbreaking approach, we have so much influence over Venezuela that we're able to nudge things in the right direction, maybe more than nudge. But I think we're aligned. What's in the best interest of interim President Rodriguez is to enhance the lives of Venezuelans. As society opens up and moves towards democracy, you've got to be popular with the people.
Some might hear nudge and think leverage. What kind of leverage potentially does the United States have and is using?
The big leverage we have is we're selling the oil that's produced and exported from Venezuela. This has big advantages for Venezuela as well. We're getting more than 50% higher dollars per barrel for the sale of that oil. We're removing a lot of the corruption that was associated with that, and we're able to direct those funds to the government and people of Venezuela, but we have discretion about continuing to direct those funds. It forces us into a partnership to drive improvement in Venezuela and improvement in American-Venezuelan relations.
Chevron, where we are, has been in this country for 100 years, so they're ripe potentially to expand production. But what about others? Are you going to be releasing new licenses for oil companies to produce in Venezuela and expand production?
Absolutely. We've already released a general license for all American and, in fact, international oil and gas companies to come down, meet with officials, investigate possible deals, and then just come back to us when they have specific deal terms. We're releasing soon licenses that's going to allow the import of parts and services, so giant oil processing facilities like we're here can be upgraded and modernized.
Any new licenses or deals that potentially could be announced or that would be coming out of this trip specifically?
Well, Chevron is being enabled to massively grow their business here. They're the largest producer in Venezuela today, and they're going to be able to both expand the reserves they have and expand their operations. We're going to see a pretty good clip in rising Chevron production over the next 18 to 24 months in Venezuela. They're just one of many, but they're going to be a big one.
Do you see the United States being in a better position in terms of these licenses? Like, will you try to help U.S. companies over, say, a Russian or Chinese company? And I ask that because on the way into this facility, we actually saw a Chinese and Russian facility on the drive over.
One of the problems in Venezuela, as you point out, is the huge presence of China, of Russia, of Iran. Hezbollah and Hamas North American headquarters are here in Venezuela. These are part of the problems we need to fix in Venezuela. Now, we want it to be open to less corrupt, honest American, Western American allies for business. So a lot of different countries will be here, but the situation on the ground will be dramatically different for China and Russia and Iran than it's been. We need to get our adversaries, particularly their nefarious activities, out of our hemisphere.
So it sounds like the United States will get more oil acreage over the adversaries. Is that correct?
Correct. The influence of China and Russia and Iran that has been very large in Venezuela will become very small. And hopefully in the case of Iran, it'll be removed to zero. Russia shrunk just dramatically.
But they have facilities now, and if they do, they can still operate?
They are operating facilities today, and we are going to work together with the officials in Venezuela to evaluate all of the business deals that are in the country and evaluate what look to be in the best interests of Venezuela and the Western Hemisphere.
So Chevron's in a unique position because they've been here for so long, but what are you hearing from other oil executives, especially someone like ConocoPhillips, where they got burned in Venezuela? They lost billions of dollars. I think the president just said, you know, it's a good write-off. We want to start with an even plate. Did you have those discussions with Delcy Rodriguez?
We do. And of course, she has regret about the past and about the things that happened. They're in active discussions with ConocoPhillips. The people that lost assets in the before are all in active dialogues right now. What's the right way forward? How to get some recompense for that money they're owed and hopefully entice them to come back into the country and grow production.
So do you think if they are repaid their debts, they would be interested to coming back in?
Oh, absolutely. The interest to come back is quite great. The question is, what kind of creative structure do you do? Venezuela's got a lot of debts. That's a tricky challenge of who gets paid how and
a ton to China as well.
They have a lot of debt to China as well. You'll see some creative deals where debt will be traded for assets in the country. So that we don't need cash flow to repay those debts, but they're repaid in assets and in a new starting point.
When it comes to what this country is capable of, there was a report decades ago on how it has the largest proven oil reserves. I would love to know, do you believe that report based on the briefings you had with this government? And how large do you think we could see Venezuela become in terms of output? At their height, you know, in mid-2000s, it was about 3 million barrels a day. How quickly could they get back to that?
I think in the first year, we'll see pretty significant 30-40% growth in Venezuelan oil production this year. You can continue production growth rate at a pretty good clip. Venezuela does have the largest proved oil reserves, which is the technical concept, much larger than the U.S., but yet we produce 20 times more oil than Venezuela does. So yes, are they underexploited resources? Absolutely. The people of Venezuela are underexploited resources. Here's people with a lot of technical education, a lot of passion for their country that have been living in dire poverty. 8 million have fled abroad. We got to change the game in Venezuela for a win for Venezuelans, a win for America, a win for our hemisphere.
On the plane over, you said that you could transform a country without troops on the ground, but through commerce. It feels like there's some sort of oil diplomacy happening here. When it comes to a place like Venezuela, though, do you think that they're going to need elections sooner rather than later to make sure that that transformation can happen, that investors come back in because they feel like this is a place of rule and law?
Yes, that is the big transformation that has to happen. If you have secure property rights and you have rule of law, you will not have a poor society anywhere in the world. So the progress towards that is starting right now, but ultimately it will certainly not be completed without free and fair democratic elections. So the government of Venezuela is chosen by the people of Venezuela. Absolutely, we're on that trajectory.
I ask that because in the short term, a lot of businesses have this consternation about coming in because of security and stability. Can the U.S. guarantee any of that security on the ground?
No, look, this is not sovereign U.S. territory. We're not going to make those guarantees. But businesses around the world always make risk-reward trade-offs. You know, is the risk higher here today than it might be in 5 years? Sure. But generally, the rewards are greater, too. You're going to see a lot of American investment this year, and you're going to see some very large multi-billion-dollar investments. Maybe wait a little bit till the transformation is more complete.
I shouted a question to Delcy Rodriguez yesterday about she coming to the U.S., and she shrugged and she said, you know, at some point, probably. Did you discuss her U.S. upcoming trip potentially on this visit?
Absolutely. You know, our goal is to bring the relations between our country back together. But right now, the immediate focus is driving progress in Venezuela, building trusting relationships, trying to regress some of the past wrongs, change the hydrocarbon law. There's other laws and court systems that will be reformed in Venezuela. In Delcy Rodriguez, we have a very interested and motivated participant to drive improvement in the country. She's seen what's happened to the country.
And potentially you have a seat at the OPEC table via her.
Look, the U.S. is by far the largest oil producer in the world. We produce more oil than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined. We don't seek or desire a seat at the OPEC table, but we are highly motivated to see growing production of oil, gas, coal, nuclear, geothermal all around the world, because that's the only way you improve people's lives.
Very diplomatic. In your words, I think you can maybe nudge along maybe some OPEC members. Secretary Wright, thank you so much for your time. Of course, that was the U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright, who has been touring Venezuela, having meetings with the government. And of course, he is the highest-ranking U.S. government official to set foot in this country since the capturing of Nicolas Maduro earlier this year.
All right, that, of course, is Anne